It's back to basics today, where we're going to talk about how to start setting up a Java project completely from scratch.
Java Easy. News, tutorials, tips. Everything you need to know as a beginner Java developer.
Hey there, and a big welcome back to the podcast. Now, as always, just before we get started, if you're completely new to Java, you might want to check out our Java Beginner Starter Guide. It's completely free. It's available at javaeasily.com, so you can go grab it there. It gives you a nice starter guide in getting started with Java technology and getting started as a Java coder. And I've used the word getting started too much in this little call to action. But never mind, let's get on with the episode. So how can we create a project from scratch? Very simple, very short episode for this particular one on the Java Easily podcast. First option, you can create it with a tool. Okay, so you're going to have different build tools in Java. You've got Gradle, you've got Maven. In Maven, for example, you can use the Quick Start archetype to create a project completely from scratch. So archetypes in Maven are a way in which you can create projects of specific types using that so-called archetype. So there's an archetype called the Quick Start archetype in Maven, and you just do Maven archetype : generate, right? And then give the details to the Quick Start archetype, which you can find online if you look at the Maven documentation. But ultimately what that'll do is that'll give you a Maven project with its own pom.xml file, with its own source Java tree, so source main Java, as the subdirectories in there, where you can then put your production source code. It'll also have a test source tree, so source test Java, where you put your test source code with a sample test in there and a sample class in the source main Java folder. And from there, what you should be able to do is you can do Maven clean install or any of the Maven commands, and out of the box, you've got a brand new project which works with Maven. You can plug dependencies into it, you can load it into IntelliJ IDEA or Eclipse, and away you go. So that's a very nice way of being able to create a project completely from scratch with Maven's Quick Start archetype. There are archetypes for other things as well, other types of projects, so like web projects or projects which, use specific technologies or libraries or whatever. You can have a look at some of those offline. It's very useful to have a dig into the different archetypes that Maven provides inside the Maven community. But yeah, that's a great way of being able to get started and create a project completely from scratch. Bear in mind though, you do have to have Maven installed first, although there are some Maven wrappers which you can use, but that's for another time though. But it does give you a nice bare bones implementation, a nice bare bones project to be able to start out and to start your new project out. That's the first way. So as we said before, you can load this project then into the IDE once the project's created, and then you can search for dependencies. The dependencies you can pull in, you can pull them in from, for example, search.maven.org. That's somewhere where you can search for Maven dependencies. You might have an idea of dependencies first, and that's again coming back to the awareness of libraries that we spoke about in a previous episode. And all you need to do once you've identified the library you want to pull in, or the dependency you want to pull into your project, you're just going to copy the so-called GAV coordinates. That stands for Group ID, Artifact ID, and Version. That's normally a little XML snippet, so between two dependency tags, you've got Group ID, Artifact ID, and Version, and you're just going to copy and paste that into your pom.xml file inside the project, which is now inside the IDE, and then refresh the dependencies, and then away you go. You've got that particular library and any of its dependency libraries which it needs all fully installed in your project, ready to go, ready to be called, and ready to work inside your new project. You can also, by the way, actually search and add dependencies from inside the IDE itself. So for example, inside IntelliJ IDEA, you can do Command and N, I think it is, and then it'll pop up a thing, it'll pop up a menu. That sounds better. It'll pop up a menu basically which asks you, or rather invites you to say what you'd like to add to this specific code artifact that you're in. And if you happen to be in a pom.xml file, then one of those options is add dependency. So you can do that and add dependencies there too. And that's nice as well because it's kind of like a searchable thing. So you can search inside the panel that comes up for example, commons-lang or whatever it might be, and then it'll give you all the options there. You can select from the different versions which are available as well. Now, another option for creating a project is actually just to repurpose an existing project. Just repurpose it. So, we oftentimes kind of like shy away from copy pasting. And yeah, I'm not a copy paste coder by any means. I don't think that's the way to be by any stretch of the imagination. You should never copy paste things blindly. But that being said, though, you can copy and paste existing projects and, rename, do a bit of renaming, and then just basically prune out the stuff that you don't need. That can be useful because that can save you, hours pretty much in like getting a particular set of dependencies together which work together, all the versions play nicely and that kind of thing. It can be nice to do that. There's no shame in doing that, so that's good. An alternative approach would be to not just take an existing project, copy it across, do some renaming of, when I say renaming, by the way, I mean, like, for example, the naming of the project, the naming, inside the pom.xml file, the naming of any, package or whatever. But you pretty much want to strip out all of the source code anyway, because we really just want to create a project from scratch which has the dependencies all ready to go. So your project, once you've kind of like copied it across and pruned out the stuff you don't need, should basically just be, a source main Java folder, source test Java folder, a pom.xml file with a nice set of dependencies which have been tried and tested in previous projects or in the old project that you quote unquote copied it from. And then again, maybe then you prune out some of the other dependencies that you don't need from there. So you've just distilled it down now to exactly what you need to sort of act as a seed project for your new project. That can be useful as well. Another way of doing this is to use the previous approach of generating a project complete from scratch and then piecewise copying across the dependencies that you need and refreshing the dependency model inside the IDE as you add each new dependency and making sure that you have what you need. You kind of build it up in a kind of a phased approach kind of way. However you do it though, porting across dependencies that you've already used in previous projects is nice because there's kind of less trial and error about having to get different components working together and that kind of thing. Now, ultimately, you just got to do what works for you. There's no such thing as Java police, there's no right or wrong way. You just need to do something that works well for you, get a main method up and running, start fleshing out the code from there. But above all, don't be shy, experiment. When you have something that's workable, in other words, it's doing pretty much what you want it to do, you can then create a Git repository, so a local Git repo, and start version controlling your project at that stage, which is kind of nice. And then it soon starts to take shape then, but knowing you've got this kind of safety net of the fact that you've version controlled the first known good version, as it were, like your kind of like baseline version or the initial version, that's always nice because then it gives you the freedom basically to then be able to instead of making tiny incremental, I'm a little bit scared kind of changes, you can do much more broad brushstroke changes and really, shape the project much quicker in the direction you want it to go, which is nice. And before long, your project will start to evolve and the world will be a happy place. Or at least that's the theory. So that's about it for today. All that remains to say is have a great day and have fun, happy coding, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.